Hey guys, my name is Joshua John, and today I'm here talking about Plato v. Aristotle and the theory of knowledge. So when looking at Plato and Aristotle, both are two of the most arguably influential philosophers in history. They both had many contrasting views, but many of Aristotle's views can be traced back to Plato, as Aristotle was a student of Plato. Today we'll look at Plato and Aristotle's view on the theory of knowledge, or better known as epistemology. Plato's theory of forms and example of the algorithm cave, as well as Aristotle's third man argument, are pivotal in the study of epistemology, as both philosophers provide insightful arguments that help shape the way modern philosophers base their arguments on epistemology. So what exactly is epistemology? Epistemology looks into how we acquire knowledge, our means of acquiring that knowledge, and the limits in which we can gain this knowledge. This is one of the key fundamental concepts in philosophy because it examines how we think in general. Generally, philosophers will look at and or use the study of knowledge to base their philosophical arguments onto. As one of the most widely read about and studied philosophers, Plato's work has come under much controversy over the years, but nonetheless he's still regarded as one of the greatest ancient Greek philosophers of all time. One of Plato's most recognized work is the Republic, in which he gives us his theory of forms. And with the theory of forms, Plato essentially wants us to take into consideration all objects that exist in the universe. Plato theorized that all these objects in the universe have been given and arranged by us in a logical way. Let's take for example humans. What makes a human a human? Well, we know that humans have 2 eyes, 1 nose, 2 hands, and 2 legs. But our appearance and the way we look, example being our skin color, facial appearance, or body image, are what makes every human on the planet individual human beings, rather than mistaking or considering every human to be the same. You, your individual unique characteristics, are what makes you you. But you still are in essence a human because of the logical idea that you possess of you being a human. Because you have the idea of distinguishing what is human and what is not, Plato argued that there is a separate realm that exists, where all these concepts that we possess exist, and are perfect and unchangeable. This realm is called the world of ideas, or the world of forms, and in here, ideas and concepts are created in its perfect essence from all things that exist on earth. Plato theorized that all these objects that we see in our world are only imperfect examples of the concepts that exist in the world of realms. Plato tells us that we have this idea and understanding of the ideal form of the objects on earth because we have the understanding of the imperfect example. Since we have the idea of what makes us human, there must be, in the ideal form, a perfect conception of a human in that realm. And it is because of that we live in a world of senses, or a world of shadows, and where all objects we see are only imperfect examples of the immaculate concept that exists in the world of realms. For more on Plato, the Republic, and his theory of forms, visit the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy's website and the Faculty of Washington's website. When trying to explain his theory of forms, Plato uses the example of the algorithm of the cave to help explain his view of rationalism and theory of how knowledge is gained. For rationalists, they believe that reason is the source of knowledge. For Plato specifically, the theory superiority of reason can be used to further understand his view of rationalism. The superiority reason thesis basically states that the knowledge we gain by reasoning is superior to any knowledge gained by the senses. For Plato, any knowledge from reason alone is superior in its metaphysical way than knowledge gained through the senses. Looking at the algorithm of the cave, the men chained in the cave are not able to see what is behind them, and are only able to see what is in front of them. The men cannot see the fire that's ablaze behind them, and only see the shadows of the objects pass in front of the fire, and as a result see only their shadows projected onto the wall in front of them. These men have no idea of the objects that exist behind them. For them, all they really know is the shadows, as that's what's real to them. The shadows are real objects to them, and they exist in no other shape or form to them, as that is what they can only see. But if they are unchained, they'd be able to turn around and see the world behind them. The shadows in the cave would represent our perceptions of the world around us. According to Plato, we have a prior knowledge of the world of forms and the perfect essence of the things in the world. When we are put into the world, we forget of this world and its essence. For a full-on text of the algorithm of the cave, visit the Internet Classics Archive. And for a full analysis of the algorithm of the cave, visit the Bachelor and Master's website.
Created using Powtoon.
Now let's take a look at Aristotle. When Aristotle was young, he enjoyed exploring and examining wildlife. It is assumed because of his detailed examination of wildlife that it would lead him to doubt Plato's world of forms. Aristotle argued that in order for the world of realms to exist, that a perfect man would have to exist. According to him, all men on earth would be modeled after this man. He also argued that this perfect man would have had to have been modeled after some even more perfect form of that, and that that form would have to be modeled by another perfect form of that. This will go on forever, is known as ad infinitum. This theory from Aristotle is known as the third man argument. The actual introduction of this argument originally came from Plato himself, but Aristotle used the example of a man which led him to find knowledge somewhere else. Time Aristotle would look to find knowledge in the world around him. He realized that when we are young, we take in knowledge through the senses and later on eventually organize that information and become familiar with it. Aristotle is believing in the knowledge that is obtained in the posteriors, which is basically what comes after, as well as taking a part of what empiricists believe in, which is that the origin of all knowledge is obtained through the senses. Now let's use an example of a chair. We know that a chair is composed of its seat, its arms, and its legs. Over time, we as humans will encounter several chairs within our lifetime, and we will begin to recognize what makes a chair a chair. Once we understand the characteristics of a chair, we can then classify its essence in a chair, and then recognize that essence in the real world. For Aristotle, we needed to go further into how this object we are perceiving behaves, what its purpose is, and just knowing its physical characteristics wasn't even enough for him. Aristotle answered these questions through the four causes. First cause is looking at the material cause, so what it's made of. Second cause is the formal cause, basically the shape of the object. Third is the efficient cause, how it was brought into the being. And the fourth and final one, which is called the final cause, which is basically what is the purpose of that object. Going back to the example of the chair, we know that the chair is made of wood, metal, or fabric. We also know that it's arranged in a way that resembles a chair, and that it is created by a manufacturer who makes chairs, and its purpose is to allow humans to sit onto something. For more on Aristotle and his third man argument, visit the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy's website, and for his four cause analysis, visit infed.org. This conflict or disagreement between Plato and Aristotle sparked the birth of empiricists and rationalists, and this also sparked an ongoing debate, and it's still going on to this day. With empiricists, you have the likes of Aristotle, John Locke, and George Berkeley, who believe that knowledge is gained through experience. And on the other side, we have rationalists who believe that our senses deceive us, and that knowledge should rely on our logic. Some famous philosophers who also share this view include Plato himself, Descartes, and Immanuel Kant. There is no doubt that there are many compelling arguments between the two views, but one thing's for sure, is that this wouldn't have started without Plato and Aristotle.
Created using Powtoon.